From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Crossing the finish line as some farmers start to bring in the harvest.
I think it's day 20 without a drop of rain.
Others look to see if this year's crops could be bin busters as the 2024 Pro Farmer Crop Tour gets underway in the East.
This is an above average year.
And the West.
Despite heavy rains and flooding early in the season here in southeastern South Dakota, crop scouts are finding consistent corn yields, making USDA's record yield projections achievable, while soybeans may fall short due to high variability in pod counts.
AgDay's team coverage of the tour starts right now.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer.
Ben's bins, please hold.
Yeah, Ben's has been busy all day.
Seems like no one can keep up with this new Z series. What did you all put in these seeds?
Science.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Happening right now, day 2 of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour is about to roll out. It comes after day 1 of the tour kicked off in the East and West, with scouts looking to see if USDA's predictions of possible record corn and soybean crops would hold true. Day 2 of the tour in the East, traveling from Noblesville, Indiana to Bloomington, Illinois, while on the western leg, it focused entirely on Nebraska. Today, traveling from Grand Island to Nebraska City. So what did scouts find on day 1 of the tour? In the East, crews traveled from Dublin, Ohio to Noblesville, Indiana. USDA calling for a drop in yield in Ohio of 188 bushels to the acre for corn. It's down 5 bushels from last year, and 59 bushels to the acre for soybeans, which would be a record high. As Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan reports, there was concern going into the tour about drought conditions.
As Pro Farmer Crop Tour scouts set out on day 1 in the East, it's an area that saw a jump start to planting this year.
We started planting our beans on the 16th of April, finished on the 25th. Started planting corn on the 26th, finished on the 30th, and we'd never been done planting that early before.
Michael Valerie farms in south central Ohio. The early start was promising, but then drought set in.
Our yields this year are going to be less than last year. We've basically had the top cut off of our crop by the fact that we've received about 5 inches less moisture than normal.
The biggest concern in parts of Ohio this year is this. According to the latest U.S. Drought Monitor, 59% of Ohio is currently seeing some level of dryness. 1 year ago, that number was only 11%.
So far, the drought has affected corn more than beans.
Valerie says farmers know they're probably not going to see the record yields they harvested last year. But as Pro Farmer editor Brian Grady got into the cornfields and started peeling back the ears,
96 was the ear count.
he uncovered a resilient crop.
In terms of what's normal out here in Ohio over the years that we've seen on Crop Tour, this is an above average year.
Grady has led the eastern leg of the tour for nearly 20 years, and he knew after last year's phenomenal corn crop in Ohio, he wouldn't find as good of a crop as he measured last year. But he still thinks this year's corn yields could be in the top 3 for the state.
When comparing it to last year, that was the record yield in the state and the gold standard, and just a phenomenal corn crop last year in Ohio. So probably not going to quite live up to those standards, but it's a very good corn crop here based on what we've seen so far.
Grady says they've seen a consistent corn crop, but when it comes to Ohio's beans,
this is going to be a pretty darn good Ohio bean crop out here.
he's even more impressed.
A heavily potted crop that has moisture in the 3rd week of August is probably going to yield pretty well, and I think that's what we're looking at so far on our route.
All right, thanks, Ty. Now in the West on day 1, scouts started the day in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, ending last night in Grand Island, Nebraska. USDA also expecting to see record corn yields in South Dakota of 162 bushels per acre and a pretty good sized soybean crop there at 47 bushels to the acre. AgDay's Michelle Rook is traveling with the tour in the West. And Michelle, drought not as big a factor this year.
Despite heavy rains and flooding early in the season here in southeastern South Dakota, crop scouts are finding consistent corn yields, making USDA's record yield projections achievable, while soybeans may fall short due to high variability in pod counts. The historic flooding right after Father's Day in the southeast definitely left its mark.
You can see the washed out areas, the flooded out areas, and it seems like every field's got a problem of some sort.
Centerville farmer Craig Anderson received 18 inches of rain in 48 hours, destroying many of his fields, and he wasn't alone.
Using the satellite stuff, that we figured it was over 40,000 acres just in this area, just right alongside of the Vermilion River.
Acres that weren't zeroed out will see lower yields from increased weed pressure, variable maturity, and pod counts.
They might be down 10 or 15% just from all the low spots that are going to be drowned out.
A year ago, our pod counts in South Dakota were 1,013. We started off in the 1,300 range, but we've also been as low as 400.
So he says that makes hitting USDA's 47 bushel yield target tough.
I'm not seeing anything that makes me think it's a 47 bushel bean crop in South Dakota.
Scout Tim Gregerson found more uniformity in the corn, despite a sample that just pollinated last week.
I see a lot of consistent corn.
He encountered a few surprises, though, with southern rust and no signs of nitrogen loss from the heavy rains early.
So far, the color of the corn's pretty good here. The holes are evident. They're a little bit bigger than normal in this area of South Dakota than a normal year, the drowned out spots. But it's amazing how tight we've seen the yields between 170 and 174.
But is it the record 162 BPA yield USDA predicted for the state?
Looking at the potholes, you know that's going to take some out. So then you go to that ear count on the good spots. The ear count's been consistent enough that it's definitely possible.
Plus, he says the northern half of South Dakota may make up for the deficits in the southeast. I'm Michelle Rourke reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And we will bring you day one tour results tomorrow morning right here on AgDay. And make sure to join us again tonight at 8 o'clock Central Time for Crop Tour Live, where we will bring you results from day two of the tour from Indiana and Nebraska. Just look for the link online over at agweb.com and on AgDay's social media channels.
The 2024 Pro Farmer Crop Tour and Ag Day is brought to you by Pioneer, combining cutting-edge research with one of the largest local testing programs in the industry to help farmers succeed. Pioneer, what's next happens here. By Citavo Soybean Seed, distributed exclusively by BASF. And by New Leaf Symbiotics, science-led, performance-driven, and data-backed, offering biostimulants for corn, soy, cotton, and peanuts, and a revolutionary new bioinsecticide for corn rootworm.
So what could scouts see weather-wise as they head out on the tour this morning? Meteorologist Jack Van Meter joins us with an update.
Well, taking a look at our temperatures for this afternoon, we can see we are going to be heating up and actually see our overall pattern, especially in the jet stream. Take a look at Texas, where that high pressure is situated. Right now, we're going to be seeing some of our highest temperatures in the country. 107 in Dallas, 106 in San Antonio, and that's where that high pressure is setting up. And as we can see, where we have those low pressure system that's moving off to the coast, we're actually going to be seeing that lower temperatures. And we're not even going to be cooling down all that much is the issue for tomorrow morning. Look how cool it actually gets in Texas. Only 80 degrees tomorrow morning in San Antonio. So unfortunately, not a lot of daytime relief whatsoever. But much of the rest of the country, especially in the Great Lakes region, it's 51 degrees in Cincinnati and 56 out there in Chicago. So not too bad there. But again, warming up very quickly for tomorrow's forecast for the afternoon. It's going to be fairly warm again across the country. For the Crop Tour Eastern leg, where we're going to be going from Noblesville, Indiana, all the way out to Bloomington, Illinois. Great news. Perfect travel weather, and honestly, just perfect weather to be outside as well. As I put this graphic in motion, we could see no rain whatsoever through Wednesday. And actually, this part of the country, especially in the Great Lakes region, is going to be dry for much of the next coming days, even close to a week, which is great news. Unfortunately, though, for the western leg of the journey, not going to be as dry. We are going to be seeing some showers and actually some thunderstorms moving in from Grand Island all the way over to Nebraska City throughout, especially the early to mid afternoon. We could be just seeing some of those light showers moving in, and actually a couple rumbles of thunder as well.
Well, there was some pretty good strength in the corn and soybean markets to start the week. We'll talk pricing strategies coming up next. And later, we're off to Arkansas, where harvest is already underway. A conversation as combines roll in the country.
Earn revenue through the Bear Carbon Program. Simple, flexible, certain. Learn more at bearforeground.com/carbon.
Imports of renewable diesel are up 29% so far this year. That's according to the Energy Information Administration. Now, it says the U.S. imported near record volumes of renewable diesel fuel in each of the first 5 months of the year, averaging 30,000 barrels a day. They were shipped almost wholly to the West Coast. That's where renewable diesel is primarily consumed. Corn and soybeans pressing higher to start the week. Soybeans getting a boost after sales to China and unknown destinations were announced. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us with more in Markets Now.
Joining us with Markets, Tom Fitzemeyer, Summit Commodity Brokerage. Tom, let's talk about corn marketing strategies. First of all, we have a lot of old crop corn to move. You know, what should producers be doing at this point? Because we have to get it moved before harvest in a lot of cases, don't we?
Well, you're in a downtrend in the corn market, and the faster you can sell, the better off you are. Now, I know a lot of people are sitting on low crop corn, hoping that something's going to happen that's going to get better, and I don't see what it is. Every time you stick your head up, and we saw that this week, 5-6 cent rally, you start to see farmer selling pick up. End users have been quite done a pretty good job of standing in there and buying it, and they need corn, especially in deficit areas. But eventually, that's going to have a basis consequence over the next month or so. So even though the futures may stabilize, I think you're going to see continued deterioration in your cash bids. So that's a problem. So it seems to me, if you got to move corn, you better get it moved. So because forcing around here isn't going to do you a whole lot of good.
What about new crop, though? As far as marketing, have some producers given up hope that there is some hedging opportunities or not?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's hardly sold anything, and I don't think they're inclined to sell anything. I think they're going to sit here and see what happens with their revenue assurance program, see how that all settles out, stick whatever corn they can in the bin, and see what happens through the winter. So there hasn't been much sold, and I don't think there's going to be much sold on this rally. Now, traditionally, the old story is you tend to buy more corn from farmers scaring them than you do rewarding them. But I don't think they're going to get all that scared on it. I mean, they've already suffered through the worst of it in their minds anyway, and they're kind of committed to just see what happens this winter.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, when you get prices this low, if farmers just say, heck, why not wait now? So
right, exactly. I think that's exactly what's happening.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. Tom Fitzemeyer with Summit Commodity Brokerage. That is Markets Now. We'll have more AgDay coming up.
Our new drought monitor that has just come out just last week looks like, unfortunately, some of those places in the country that have been experiencing some of the drought, it's not really much getting better. Taking a look at West Virginia especially, the whole state is experiencing a lot of just dry conditions, seeing that moderate to severe, and unfortunately some of that extreme drought as well. And especially the same situation out for Montana, where the entire state is below average for this time of year. And unfortunately, when we take a look at a precipitation outlook, doesn't look like it's going to be getting much better. The issue is we're having this large ridge of high pressure that's going to be setting up in Texas, and it's just going to be blocking a lot of precipitation, especially for the Great Lakes and Midwest region of the country, where we're going to be seeing that below average amount for precipitation to end out August. So it's something we're keeping a very close eye on, and we can tell here, look how large and in charge this ridge is that's setting up in the southern part of the country, and that's just going to be trekking east as we go along. We do have this low pressure system, that trough, that is going to bring some precipitation, good news, to the east coast, but we just have to wait for this ridge to break down, actually, for most of us to be seeing that rain. Good news is the ridge is not going to be all that long-lived, because we do have a trough of low pressure moving in off the coast of California. That's going to push and move this ridge slowly but surely across the nation. So we just have to watch that for the next coming days. Also tracking some above average precipitation, especially for the Dakotas. And as we can see, there is some of that rain that will be moving down as we move throughout the week and evening. Terre Haute, Indiana, sunny, high of 76, low of 51 degrees. Lincoln, Nebraska, going to be dealing with some showers, high of only 78 degrees, low of 62. Douglas, Wyoming, hot, 94 degrees.
A new report claims the U.S. avian flu outbreak in dairy cattle is much bigger than the official numbers released from USDA. Now, this comes from Reuters. It says the discrepancy is due to farmers' reluctance to test their animals. Reuters saying it's because of the economic risk associated with having a positive H5N1 result. That includes restrictions from selling milk or cattle. Joe Armstrong, a veterinarian and cattle expert at the University of Minnesota, told the news agency he believes a more accurate cattle case count for Minnesota would be 3 to 5 times higher. Now, Reuters reports 4 sources told them some farmers do not test because they distrust government officials or information about the risks of avian flu to cattle and humans. Keith Polson is the director of the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. Now, he told Reuters, quote, "It's still cheaper to just go through a herd outbreak, recover, and move on down the road," end quote. At last report, 192 herds have had the virus in 13 states. Health officials say pasteurized milk remains safe to drink. South Dakota has seen a lot of growth when it comes to dairy production, but North Dakota is seeing some big growth as well. The North Dakota Monitor reporting 2 dairy farms planned for the eastern part of the state would more than quadruple the number of dairy cows in North Dakota. Riverview Dairy plans to build a 25,000 cow dairy operation near Hillsboro and a more than 1,200 head dairy operation in Richland County. Right now, the state has 24 dairy farms with fewer than 10,000 milk cows when combined. While Crop Tour is looking at potential yields, in Arkansas, farmers are counting actual bushels as harvest season kicks off today in the country. The Pro Farmer Crop Tour is checking out crops in their final leg. Harvest 24 has already started in Arkansas. The Arkansas Farm Bureau caught up with one producer as she starts corn harvest.
We got everything in really early this year. Some beans planted in March, and I would say we were 80% planted through April. And then we started getting rain and good rain, and then I believe after the Hurricane Beryl, we got a 6 or 7 inch rain, and then about a week or so later, we got another 6 or 7 inch rain, and as of right now, I think it's day 20 without a drop of rain and 90 to 100 degrees every day. And we had an irrigated corn crop without really having to irrigate this year. Our dryland corn, I bet will be 170 or so bushel. It looks really good. I say corn harvest is fired up, not only for us, but everybody surrounding us. The kernels look great, good big corn, beautiful corn. The market's kind of the opposite. It just seems like it's every day dropping lower. Today, I think it was 370 something. The break-even line kind of starts really making you crunch numbers there. Rice is pretty much steady. I don't really feel like it's changed too much. I wish we had more rice to make up for the corn and beans. Starting out early, the beans looked really good. Our early beans, we got them in the ground, had rain, pretty evenly spaced out rains. However, they had a real shallow root system. And then the later we got in the summer, our early beans, I think that's really what hurt them, and they turned off the opposite. And we may have to cut some early beans here in a couple weeks just because they're in some sandy ground and they've really dried up. We need a rain. I know, just like bush hogging at home, we caught a field on fire the other day just from, it's dry. We're really dry. I feel like you need a rain in places and you don't need a rain in others, but we do. We need a rain. We need a rain. Right now, I would take a soaking rain if we need it. We cut hay today, and I'd be all right if it got rained on. We need a rain.
And our thanks to the Arkansas Farm Bureau for that update. And some good news, there was rain in the forecast for the central part of the state yesterday. Now, don't forget to join us at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern tonight for Day 2 of Crop Tour Live. Look for the link over at agweb.com and on AgDay's Facebook page. And that's all the time we have this morning. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.